Welcome on into a new episode of the Scots Sports Show. I am your host, Tyler Trumbauer. One more week left in the 2015 football season for Edinboro football. So one of the last times we'll be talking to head coach Scott Browning, and he joins us here on the first segment of the show. And of course, to my right, making a return, play-by-play voice, Mike Fenner here on the show. Thanks for joining us, Coach. Thanks for dressing up for us. We appreciate that. After 10 weeks, going out with a bang here on the nicely dressed Scots Sports Show. So, going back to last week, Seton Hill, the final game of the PSAC schedule, because the final week won't count towards that record. A tough one against Seton Hill, except before the news started happening before kickoff. Jake Sisson sidelined with an injury. Insert freshman Jack Wallman. Take us through that timeline. And, I mean, Jake was still there, still dressed, still was the holder on kicks, but wasn't able to throw. Was that the difference? He just wasn't able to throw?
Actually, it's the other side, and I can't comment a lot on that. But, you know, it was an exciting week for us.
Right.
And going into the game, we were really excited to see how Jack Wallman would play. Mm-hmm. And I've got to tell you, I had a lot of fun. Our offensive staff had a great time. We thought Jack really handled the situation like a champ and really showed us a bright future. And, you know, he took some hits early and he responded. I think it made him more competitive, threw the ball well, ended the day, you know, throwing 50 passes. He completed 31. So, you know, he's 62% completion percentage right now. And I really thought he played extremely well.
And, Coach, you've seen Jack already through practice all season long, but how was this past week different with him leading the ones and him kind of leading that offense last week?
You know, I think you know, at one point in time in the season, I think Jack was probably in redshirt mode, thinking that he was not going to play this year. And when we sat down as a staff and Coach Watson and I sat down and talked with Jack prior to the week, we presented the idea with him that, you know, Jake probably would not play and that let's take the last two games and make you the guy and find out what you're all about, so you can also find out what it's all about. And so we did. He had he just, it was like the light went on and had a really good week's worth of practice. Then the challenge was, or the question was, how would he respond in the game? And I don't think he could have responded any better.
So just going into your answer there, that is saying that Jack Wallman will be the guy again under center upcoming against Millersville this final game of the 2015 season?
Yes, sir. We'll win this week, and he'll take the reps, and he's going to be the guy. And this will give him two good games under his belt to find out what, you know. I mean, I would like to think now that we go into this game and performance is even going to improve on last week's, because now he should feel comfortable, and the players should feel comfortable with him, and he should know what to expect. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun Saturday.
Right, so let's go back to that last Saturday. You said in the game, responded well, 31 of 50 through the air. Unfortunately, a loss to Seton Hill, 44-23 on their senior day. Back and forth battle in the first half. One thing Mike and I kept talking about on the broadcast is I said it's like basically Edinboro's playing Edinboro and Seton Hill's playing Seton Hill. You guys are so evenly matched. Yeah. It was back and forth until the second half. What do you think was the spot of the game where the tide just started to turn, because then Seton Hill opened up the second half with just more unanswered points? You know,
everyone's got their opinion, but, you know, I thought we missed some opportunities in the first half, you know, with a couple drops. And, you know, I felt at halftime we could have gone in easily, been up 27-28 with 27 or 28 points. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the fake punt hurt us. But, you know, at halftime we were down one. I really felt at halftime we would come out and we would control the game and do what we had to come away with a victory. And, you know, unfortunately they took the second half kickoff and they went right down the field and scored on us, and which was not a great sign. And then we come out the next series and you know, Jack made a check, which was perfect. It's what we worked on all week. He checked us into, you know, an option play, and unfortunately we didn't execute it. It was a great check. Had we executed it, big things would have happened. But I think it has a little bit to do with being the first start. And so then we even come back, though, and they put it in, and now we're down 14. It just kind of, things got tougher at that point.
Although Jack did take some hits, only was sacked one time. despite some shuffling on the offensive line due to injury. How do you feel like your front five performed, especially with a freshman at left tackle and Alex Molick?
Yeah, we started really the freshman Molick and then redshirt freshman Hitchcock. At times I would have thought we would have played a little bit better and we played up front. I thought Jack took way too many hits. He took some shots that a lot of quarterbacks may not have chosen to come back from. But he had told one of our Coach Watson before the game he just needed that first hit. Well, he got about 5 or 6 of them early, and he responded extremely well.
Right, for Seton Hill's side, let's not forget the point that they were playing with a backup quarterback as well, a guy with had a little bit more experience, a few reps this season, unlike Jack making his first career college start, first snap as a Fighting Scot. For your defense going up against Seton Hill's offense, which everyone knew about their aerial attack, they just like to throw the ball, throw the ball, throw the ball. However strong their starter down, insert a senior but a reserve quarterback for Seton Hill. How do you feel your defense did against the Griffins?
Well, I think they struggled. Quite honestly, their quarterback, he is a senior, and that helped. He has played relatively good amount of football for Seton Hill over the last few years, and so it's not like he was a rookie. In fact, the first couple games of the season, he played quite a bit. But we left some guys free, and the thing that they did probably most disappointing for me is not only did they throw the ball well, they ran the football well, and I think they ended up with like 563 yards. So, we got to get that thing tightened up over there on defense if we're going to be a better football team.
Very true. Now have one more chance to tighten that up in a game situation, Week 11, going over across the state to Millersville to wrap things up. And just yesterday, alteration of the schedule, 1 o'clock kick normally, now a 4 o'clock kick between Millersville and Edinboro, with the Marauders hosting an NCAA field hockey match on that same field at noon start there. So how does that alter the schedule as a coach trying to change things on the fly? How does that affect the plans in the upcoming days and on game day?
It's just you have to back everything up now 3 hours. And probably the toughest thing for me is not the time we kick off, but, where we would have gotten back probably about 11 o'clock at night, now we're getting back at 2 o'clock, and you have concerns that way with bus driver falling asleep and just some things like that. Really, it's a concern. And but we'll play well. We're going to go out there whether we kick off at 1 o'clock or 4 o'clock. Both teams are kicking off at the same time, so we've got to adjust, and we will.
Millersville comes off of its first win of the season last week over Cheney, a 26-6 victory. What do you see early on when scouting the Marauders and looking at that team upcoming?
Well, I think the first thing is when you come off a victory, you have more confidence than had you come off a loss. And so they've got to start feeling good about themselves right now. And right now we're still probably stinging a little bit from Seton Hill, but we've got to put that behind us. And we will go out and prepare and play hard, and good things can happen for us.
Millersville trying to do what you were hoping to do, finish the season on 2 wins and carry that over into 2016. Unfortunately, went the PSAC slate winless, first time since the 60s for that. But how important is it, you wanted to get that 2-game winning streak, but still to just get this one against Millersville? Obviously a game going on, the state game, the championship game, that's where all eyes are going to be. But for your guys, for morale, for that locker room, how important is it to just get that win, despite many outsiders might saying it's a meaningless game?
Yeah, it's not meaningless. It's an important game for us, and to be quite honest with you, on Saturday, that's the only game that means anything to me. And I think our players feel the same way. So we'll go out, we'll play hard, we'll be prepared, but we've got to go out and execute and come home with a victory.
For your guys offensively, building off something from last week, Corey Bell, probably his best game as an Edinboro Fighting Scot. The running game was going early. Often you were able, especially in that first half, for him to get going. I think it was only 12 or 13 second half rushing yards, but the first half was where it really got going. What did you see from him, and where was the change? Maybe it was just that he actually had some holes to hit this time. What do you think was that?
Well, I think we went in with the idea and to help Jack out as a starter, we wanted to run the football. In fact, we wanted to come out in the second half and run the football. But like I said before you knew it, we were down 14, then we were down 21, and so that alters your game plan. And I expect Corey Bell to have a good day this Saturday, as well as Jamal Everard, get him involved. But Corey's got more speed than you would think. He ran away from some guys, and one thing I'd say about Seton Hill, they have speed. And thought Corey had a nice football game.
And that's going to be all for Edinboro after this Saturday against Millersville, a 4 o'clock kick on the eastern side of the state. Edinboro hoping to end this season on the winning note with a victory. Coach, good luck this Saturday, and thanks for your time today.
I appreciate you.
The Scott Sports Show will continue along after this with more Boro football talk with the man of the hour we just talked about, quarterback Jack Wallman. Welcome back to the Scott Sports Show. More Boro football talk upcoming as we're going to stay on the gridiron. Mike Fenner sticking around as well. And now we are joined by true freshman, not going to be able to say red shirt next year either, Jack Wallman, here with us on the Scott Sports Show, who was the starting quarterback in relief of injured Jake Sisson a week ago against Seton Hill. Jack, so about midweek it was last week, you got the nod, and as Coach Browning said, him and Watson sat down with you and said, you're going to be our guy upcoming, not just for this upcoming Saturday, but for the Saturday after that.
Yes, sir.
What was rushing through your head?
I mean, I was just so excited to be able to get back to playing football. Not being able to play for those first 8 weeks and being the second-string quarterback, I mean, I learned a lot. That was the key, I think, for me, was being able to learn from Jake and learn everything. But once you get that call, like, oh, my goodness, I'm going to start my first career start as a college quarterback, just tons of emotion came out. I was ecstatic. I was so pumped to be able to play.
Certainly. How important was Jake Sisson for you in that transition? I know he was probably trying to nurse his own injury and try to get back, and he still had to worry about his holding duties on special teams.
Yep.
But how much did he help you transitioning from second string to number one on the depth chart?
He helped me a lot. I mean, he's a great role model. He did help me with checks, going over coverages, routes, everything like that. He was a tremendous help getting me ready to be able to play this week.
What was the week of preparation like for you now being with the ones, leading those guys and leading the offense as opposed to being behind Jake during practice? How much of that preparation changed for you this week?
Well, it was a lot more intense, and I was still getting reps with the ones when I was in two. I got to move in with Jake, and we got to take some more reps, but it was much more intense, just being able to go through the checks, go through all the plays. I got most of the reps this week just trying to get me ready for this game.
So obviously I know number one in your mind is to get a victory at the end of the day, but with Seton Hill last week, with Millersville upcoming this Saturday, do you kind of feel that's an audition for you? I mean, obviously you got to show some of your skills in practice, but there's nothing you can simulate as a game situation.
Yes.
So you have two opportunities here at the end of the season. You had one upcoming. Do you feel this is an audition for you in a game situation for the coaching staff?
I mean, I do. They said it's going to be a tryout, and that's the way I'm taking it. If I can show what I can do in game situation, then they said that it's going to lead into a great offseason and great spring ball, which, I mean, looking forward to next year. Obviously, we need to win this next game, but looking forward to next year with the guys that we have coming back.
Both you and Coach after the game told me that it was so important to get film, to get yourself on tape and to see what you can do. Now that you've gone back and assessed yourself and looked at what you did in that first game, what did you make of your performance, and how do you feel you performed now that you got a chance to look at it again?
Going back to the game, I mean, I thought it was an okay game for me. There's obviously a couple mistakes, but I'm not going to take that as a negative. I'm going to take that as a positive. I can learn from mistakes that I made and correct them, and hopefully we can have an even better game this week.
Right, in that game this week against Millersville at 4 o'clock on Saturday. What is your mindset going in now that from the beginning of the week to that game day, you know you're the starter? Yeah. So what is your mindset leading up to that, and what is your assessment of the Marauders this Saturday?
My mindset is just to go out and try to get a win for these 5 seniors that we have. The whole team, I think, we're just trying to go out and get this one win for these guys to end them off on a good note. This team is obviously going to be a great team. Every Division II team there's always a chance to lose, but I think we have a tremendous chance to win this week.
Right, you talked about those seniors who you want to send off on a good note. How are those seniors, those starters, those upperclassmen treating you and responding to you now jumping up to a starting position?
I mean, we always play with one another and we always tease one another, but they've helped me out, I think, more than anybody. Those seniors have really showed me the ropes and how to conduct myself and how to work during practice to get myself in a starting position.
And to Tyler's point, this is a very young football team overall. Does that kind of help you as a freshman going in and leading an offense when you have a lot of other younger players in that offense and on the football team in general?
I mean, we're a very young team. We have 65 freshmen, and we all hold each other in the same respect. It doesn't really show how what age difference it is. We all hold each other. We're all teammates, and that's what it is. We don't see each other as higher or lower. We're all teammates. We're all on the same team trying to get the same goal.
Same goal this Saturday is to beat the Marauders, kicking off at 4 o'clock for Edinboro and Millersville. That's freshman Jack Wallman dressed as a senior, making sure Coach Browning's not outdressing you with the tie today.
That's
Good
right.
luck. That's Boro football. That's Jack Wallman, Mike Fenner as well. The Scots Sports Show will roll along after this as we're going to move into cross country, who's just collecting titles as they move along this season. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the show. Crowded set now here in our next segment with Edinboro men's and women's cross country. Let's make our way around here. To my immediate left is head cross country coach Rick Hammer. To my right, freshman Eden Narbuvoll. And to the far side of the stage, we have senior Elliot Martynkieiwicz of the Edinboro men's cross country team. Guys, thanks for joining me today. The usual cast from Edinboro Cross Country on the show. We appreciate the time as always. And here to talk about the Atlantic Region Championship this past Saturday at Lock Haven. Ida adding to her hardware collection, which is quickly growing here in her college career. Elliot with a third-place finish in the men's race, getting both teams to the national championship. Coach, you were here last week to preview that. The men's team, you said it was going to take a lot for them to get together as a unit, race their best they can, and get to nationals. And they did just that. How do you feel they performed on Saturday good enough to keep their season alive?
Well, you know, we had talked earlier on the show after we were fifth in the conference meet, which, as we discussed, was sort of an all-time low for the program. We said we had a plan in mind, and it was just going to be the guys believing in it and going out and executing it. I mean, Elliot did what he's done all season long. He's led us up front. And really the bulk of that plan fell on our second through fifth men. Elliot being up front, finishing runner-up at the conference and third at the regional, he really can't get much higher than that. And I really got to compliment John Gassou and Corey Weefing. The reason we're going to nationals is because those guys really stepped up big, ran all region for us. And we had a couple seniors in Don Patrick and Logan Kempty that held off the guys from IUP just enough to steal that third bid. So.
And that they did. Elliot, you were leading that pack of fighting Scots, as he mentioned. Corey, Logan, among other guys, taking care of business on the other end. How do you feel you did on Saturday? And as a whole, your team staying alive here this season?
I was really happy with my race on Saturday. Kind of just went out and executed the plan that Coach and I had set up before the race. You know, get in that front pack and just kind of hang out, make sure that regardless of whether the team qualified or not, that I was going to make that trip to the nationals. So the guys did an amazing job. John and Corey really raced well. It was awesome to turn around at the finish and see them coming down the straightaway, and I didn't see a single IUP guy, so I was screaming at him like, "Come on, let's go, like trying to get him like coming in faster." So
there you go,
awesome.
And that's obviously a great feeling to see them right behind you, because in your mind you're like, "Let's go." You're not racing to the finish line. You're racing to Joplin, Missouri, because that's where the nationals is going to be with you guys there. Ida, for you, just another day at the office, I think, the Atlantic Region Championship to go along with your individual PSAC crown. Lock Haven was a little bit flatter course, more suitable for you. What was your mindset going in, and how do you feel you did on Saturday, obviously #1 in the women's race?
Since I won PSACs, I knew that most people would look at me as one of the favorites. And of course, I also thought of me as one of the favorites, and I wanted to win that race, and I knew I could. So that was what I was thinking at the start line and during the race, that this is something I can do. And one of the girls took off after, I think it was like 2.8 Ks or something, and she got a pretty large gap, I would say. But I know what I'm capable of, so I managed to catch her, and I'm very happy with the race.
Right, you said you thought people were looking at you as a favorite.
One of them, yeah.
One of them. How do you feel you responded with kind of having that bullseye on your back, people gunning for you? Did that kind of creep into your mind at all, or you were like, I know I can be in this position?
Yeah, I kind of don't care about what other people think.
That is a great answer, because you really shouldn't. Coach, what did you think? You are another person. Hopefully you care what Coach thinks.
Yeah, I care
what did you think about Ida's performance on Saturday?
Well, I think we knew going into the race that it was going to be very, very fast up front. We kind of talked that the men's regional is pretty top-heavy, but not so strong in depth. The women's side is just the opposite of that. There were several good teams that were there, several teams that maybe weren't national caliber that had some very strong front runners, and they knew they had to really get out and try to be one of the top 3 individuals or put themselves in the top 5 to advance to nationals. And I think the first mile went out sub 5:20 on the front end, and there was a huge group of girls there, and they were all just basically making moves trying to drop Ida, and she kind of weathered the storm, handled everything they threw at her, and then brought it home there in the final 800 meters. So it was an exceptional race. I mean, I think it definitely marks her as one of the younger people to watch, one of the newcomers on the national stage, and I'm excited to see what she'll do in Joplin. It's going to be a good run.
Very true. Now the men continuing that tradition of Edinboro men's cross country being in the national championship as the head coach, and as you said, bouncing back from an all-time low of 5th place, just showing what that tradition's like at the PSAC championships. What's it like to be able to bring both squads to Missouri for the national championships?
To be honest, it's in a lot of ways it's a relief. Certainly, Elliot is a senior. Myself as a relatively new coach still, we didn't want to see that streak end on our watch, and it came very, very close to ending. I mean, I think the final result was only 8 or 9 points, and as well as our top 3 guys ran. I got to take my hat off to IUP. They're a great team. They've beaten us the majority of the year. A couple guys having off days, maybe a late season injury. They were a good team. It's almost it's very difficult to go to this meet knowing that they won't be there. And in some ways, I'm very happy and proud of our group. I also hope that this tradition continuing doesn't teach some of our young guys that they can get by with the level of work they've been putting in. I think some of the things we talked about on the show is that we've got a young group that needs to really needs to buy in and make the commitment to do the things that is demanded to be a part of a tradition like Edinboro has. And some of them have done a great job with that. Some of us need to really step up their game, and maybe missing nationals would have been the best thing for them in that circumstance. So some mixed feelings, but for the most part, I'm very, very happy to be taking both groups.
Elliot, you're going to be going to nationals, obviously, as a leader of this men's team. How much does it mean to you to be able to cap off your collegiate cross-country career with that trip to nationals, not only for yourself, but to bring the rest of your team with?
It's exciting. I'm really looking forward to getting out there and lining up one last time with the guys. It's bittersweet, and still have some goals to accomplish there, but at the same time, it's just an exciting feeling, just one last shot.
Right, Ida, for you, the PSAC championship, the Atlantic Region championship, now you're going into the national championships. So the biggest stage of them all, you're coming in, as Coach said, kind of putting your name out there on that national stage. What are your thoughts going into Joplin, Missouri in just a few weeks here?
Well, since I haven't run a national race before here, but in every race you just have to go out there and run as fast as you can, and basically that's the plan.
Just go as fast as you can. That's kind of what cross country is. I mean, that's why I never really did the sport. Coach, for nationals upcoming for your teams, they're going to try to run as fast as they can. What is the upcoming days leading up to the national championships like, training-wise and mentality-wise for the teams?
Well, we kind of talked this morning at our women's practice, and we will address it again tonight at our men's practice, that the bulk of our work is done. The hay is in the barn, and we've developed our volume and our aerobic capacity pretty much as we can prior to the national championships. And these next couple of days, week and a half that we have, we're going to spend that time, still kind of addressing certain things as 10,000 meters and 6,000 meters respectively. They measure the same, whether you measure them in August or November or any other time. But that being said, we're going to make sure that we're sharpened up for those. We're backing off on our long runs, maybe dropping an interval here, a set there, as we try and sharpen up, and then just continuing to preach about doing the little things correctly, getting sleep, eating right, not making poor lifestyle choices that are so common in college. Staying away from those kind of things. So
very true. Got to be at the top of your game with the national championships on the horizon. And Elliot with the 3rd place finish, Ida with the win, this week's male and female Scots of the week, helping the teams go to the national championships upcoming later this month. Congratulations to all of you guys. Good luck at the national championships, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you guys soon. The Scots Sports Show will continue along after this with women's soccer, as they've been on one heck of a tear, making the first ever PSAC championship in program history and have an NCAA tournament game upcoming this week. We'll talk to them next. Welcome back to the show. Now we're going to move to the pitch. Boro women's soccer, they're on a tear as of late into the playoffs now. We're going to talk about that right here on the Scots Sports Show. Mike Fenner joining us back here on the show doing football and football here on the show. And then head women's soccer coach Gary Kagiawas giving us a few minutes today. Coach, so let's go all the way back to the quarterfinals in the PSAC tournament, the 1-0 win against Kutztown, and then going to the up against then 5th ranked in the nation and top seed in the bracket Gannon, getting the upset win over them 3-1, leading you to the first ever PSAC championship appearance. But those first 2 games against KU and Gannon, what did you make of your ladies' play there? Alex Brown, obviously, with 3 goals in those 2 games. How happy were you with that performance?
Well, you know, anytime you get a win in the conference, especially in the playoffs, it's pretty cool. And Alex Brown of late has been really stepped up her playing, and she got fitter as the season got on, and she has special qualities. And she's left-footed, she's fast, and so we were hoping it would come earlier, but it came. You know, nobody's going to complain that it came so late and it's in the playoffs and everything else. But she's been on a tear lately. She's done a great job for us.
Right, perfect timing for her, catapulting your ladies to the first ever PSAC championship game in Boro women's soccer history, facing East Stroudsburg, the defending champs, but the 7th seed. What did you make of that matchup, a team you beat 2-1 on Senior Day just a few weeks ago?
Yeah, you know, even though we beat them, we knew there was an uncomfortable win. There was no time in that game that I felt that we had that game in control, and we knew we were expecting the same thing again. And out of all the teams we played this year, I thought East Stroudsburg was the most difficult to compete against, personnel for personnel. And you know, in the playoff game, in the finals, we actually kind of dominated the overtime period. We dominated certain periods of time, and I really thought that we were going to get them. But unfortunately, they came on the wrong side of we ended up on the wrong side of that result.
Right, yeah, 2-1 in 97 minutes and 59 seconds of soccer on Sunday. And I actually said on the broadcast with Mike, seconds before the goal was scored by ESU, I said, Edinboro's been playing this entire period in ESU territory, but they got to score. You can't get a win by just playing in their territory the whole time. Do you think, what do you make of their play overall? I mean, on that one, do you think it was just coming from the lack of taking advantage of opportunities? Because like you said, at that point in time, both squads almost had 20 shots in that contest, and you had a lot of opportunities in overtime.
You truthfully only, in soccer, you only probably get 3 or 4 really, really good chances. We had 2 or 3 really, really good chances, and the one that Nicole Shabbat hit, I mean, it's as good a shot. It coming across the box, first time shot, without, and it hit a kid square in the chest. I mean, if it hits a yard or a foot or whatever it is to her left, it goes in. It hits a yard or foot to the right, it goes in. And then we had another one go across the goal mouth where we usually have somebody on the backside of the box finishing that off, and that didn't happen. Then we had, I mean, it was just one of those things where the tempo was up. We were trying to impose our will on them, and I thought we were. And then there was a confusion in the back where 3 of my kids went to the same ball. A ball bobbles loose, and then they freaking play a ball through to, I don't even know the kid was there, to be honest. I was shocked when all of a sudden the kid's standing there by herself, and then she scored.
For how wonderful Alex Brown had played throughout the PSAC tournament, for her and the Ashley Mutkus both to go down with injuries, how did that affect the team, though, late in that match?
You know, it does a lot. I mean, obviously, clearly, I think they might be, Alex especially of late has been brilliant for us, and Ashley for the whole year has done really, really well for us. And then, of course, they're double-teaming Jansen, so that kind of but the other kids that stepped on did a great job. I mean, there's a reason one starts over the other, but the kids that came on, I mean, they gave a lot of effort. They gave us opportunities to score. Now, I guess that's all you can ask for, right? There's a reason the other one scores more goals. But they really fulfilled what we needed. Just unfortunately, the result didn't come for us.
Right, so the season not over, though, despite that second place finish in the PSAC. Just an at-large berth into the NCAA tournament and getting the 4th seed, and you will be facing Charleston, West Virginia, upcoming this Friday at noon, and Gannon, the top seed in the Atlantic region, will be hosting that one. What do you make of Charleston? I know we were just talking about it before we started to go on the show here. You said you're just trying to figure out who this team is. What do they do? How can we face them? What have you learned thus far?
Well, we because we don't play any, we only got 2 out-of-conference games, and we're trying to play the best teams possible. Charleston just wasn't one of those teams. But that said, they beat Notre Dame, who we beat, to get into their tournament final too, and they were the runner-up, and they don't give up too many goals. Got a couple of big kids, quite a few international kids, and they play a 4-3-3 formation, and I was just getting any information that I could get at this time because nobody in our conference actually played them. And you're not allowed to give information on your own team's conference, even though I got some friends in the other conference, but they wouldn't give me any information anyway. So we're going to kind of go in there a little bit blindsided. We know the formation they're playing, so we'll hopefully have our own strategy and try and play that formation and try and compete with them.
Facing that Charleston team who's making their first appearance in the NCAA tournament, how do you feel your team is confidence-wise with the body of work you've had all season long and this past week with the PSAC tournament in such a difficult conference?
There's no substitute for experience, and most of my kids have already been there. We've done this once or twice before. It is the norm, I think, for most of the kids that we've had in our program. And the first couple of times when we did go, when Jansen was a freshman and a sophomore, we were nervous. We were trying to figure that. So the fact that most of my team's already been there is incredible. The second part of it is, I think that it's close to home. We sleep in our own beds. We don't have to go and train on their facility. We already know what that's like. We were there last week. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that we're familiar with that's going to be cool for us. At the end of the day, though, I'm not sure if we have Brownie back. I'm not sure if we have Mutkus back. I'm not sure Haley Hammer's going to be okay. I'm not sure who's going to be okay for Friday. So either way, you got to roll up your sleeves and go and play and see what comes of that, you know.
And that's what they're going to do on Friday against Charleston, West Virginia in the first round of the NCAA tournament in the Atlantic region side of that bracket at McConnell Family Stadium in Erie, basically the home away from home for Edinboro women's soccer as of late. Coach, good luck and congratulations on what you've accomplished thus far.
Thank you very, very much. Actually, the credit goes to the kids. It really does. They've gelled. They've done a lot of good stuff together. You can't do anything unless your team is united in their goals, and that's what they've done.
And they're going to try to continue that on Friday in the NCAA tournament. Don't go anywhere. The Scots Sports Show will continue right after this. Welcome back to the show. The 2015-16 basketball seasons for Edinboro's men's and women's basketball teams will get underway in the upcoming days. Edinboro University hosted PSAC Basketball Media Day a few weeks ago at the Pogue Student Center. I caught up with members of both the Edinboro men's and women's teams, compiling this package, our 2015 season preview for Edinboro men's and women's basketball here in the Scots Sports Show. Let's take a look at that.
It's an interesting transition because we have always been the hunter instead of the hunted, and so now it's trying to make sure our guys realize it's a change of rules and the expectations are higher. We got to be able to move up now.
First, this is the highest since I've been here that we've been picked. For the past 3 years I've been here, we've been picked 8th twice, I think 6th my red shirt year. So I'm just taking it all in right now.
You guys kind of came out of nowhere last year, like you said, picked in the 8th, and you were sneaking up on teams. Now the target may be kind of on your back. How do you maybe deal with those expectations and try and live up to that this year?
The same way the target's on our back at 3rd, we got a target for the 2nd and 1st place. So the PSAC's a tough conference. There shouldn't be no light games. Every game is going to be a dogfight. So just got to remember that.
Yeah, I think we have a very good team. I like our 2 seniors. They bring a lot of experience. Whitney brings a lot, returning. She was playing towards the end of the year, Nicole. And so I think we have a really great nucleus. It's just if we add in some really good new players, and we did that. We feel like Katie Fisher that we've done that with some of the freshmen. We've done that, and I think it's exciting. I think we're going to be tough.
I mean, everything's up in the air right now. There's nothing set in stone, but I'm really excited to get the opportunity to play with Katie Fisher, and she's going to do some great things for us. She's a transfer junior, and there's so many opportunities with the 5 freshmen that we have coming in. A lot of them can play different spots on the court, so I think there's just a lot of different combinations that we can go with.
I'd like to thank everyone for their time that day. The women's team gets things underway this weekend at the PSAC MEC Challenge in West Virginia, while the men's team gets things underway next Wednesday against Slippery Rock University at 7:30 in Macomb Fieldhouse. Don't go anywhere. The Scots Sports Show continues after this. Congratulations to Elliot Martynkieiwicz and Narbuvoll of the men's and women's cross-country teams for being named this week's Male and Female Scots of the Week. Martynkieiwicz finished 3rd at the 2015 Division II Atlantic Region Cross-Country Championship this past Saturday at Lock Haven University, helping the Edinboro men's team get into the 2015 National Championship race. Ida captured the 2015 Women's Individual Atlantic Regional crown this past Saturday to couple it with her PSAC championship from a few weeks ago, and of course helping the ladies as a team qualify for the national championships later this month in Joplin, Missouri. Congratulations to both of them. Now let's take a look at what is ahead for Edinboro student athletes. A big Friday schedule this week. Normally it's on Saturdays. Women's soccer has their first NCAA playoff game this Friday at Gannon at noon against Charleston, West Virginia. The women's basketball team gets their 2015-16 campaign underway in West Virginia against Charleston, West Virginia as well. We have swimming that night in Macomb Fieldhouse hosting nearby Allegheny College. Also, women's volleyball has a pair of road matches Friday night and on Saturday, and football has their regular season and 2015 finale against Millersville at 4 p.m. in that new time change, which we talked about earlier with head coach Scott Browning. Try to go out this weekend and support Edinboro's student athletes. That's all the show we have for this week. Thanks for watching, and go Boro.